to make a deal. We committed to the process. We made proposals, and it just did not happen.
That was Rob Manfred, everyone's favorite commissioner, talking about why Major League Baseball needed to enact a lockout. The first lockout the sport has had since 1990. Obviously, baseball fans are rightfully pissed off. As a diehard baseball fan myself, I'm pissed off by the fact that we have a Major League Baseball lockout. It makes zero sense that a sport that's making an estimated 9 to 10 billion a year is locking themselves out. It is a bad look when millionaires are fighting with billionaires. Period. End of story. You can't justify it. It is a bad look all around that Major League Baseball got to this point. It's just a terrible look. You cannot justify where we are at with MLB having to lock down its players. The players are greedy. The owners are greedy. There's too much money to be made for this to happen. But baseball, as per usual, can never, ever, ever get out of its own right. And that's what's happening here. So do I think we'll get a Major League season? I do. I think at some point we will. Do I think we're going to get a lockout that could be pretty long in length? I do. I really do. Deadlines spur action, meaning that the closer they get to spring training is when they might actually start talking and work on getting something done. Anyone who's expecting like a couple of weeks to go by and then nothing happens and they strike a deal. I mean, have you paid attention to how the Players Association and the MLB owners operate? Did you see what happened when they couldn't agree on any of the rules for a Fugazi 2020 season? There should have been way more than 60 games that were played then. That was a joke, an absolute joke. So I look at this MLB lockout right now, and I say it's probably going to last a while. And if I'm betting on what's going to happen, I don't think we play a full 162 this year. I think the fact that they had a pandemic and played through it and got through 60 games, in the back of the owners' minds, that means, well, we know we don't need to play a full 162. As long as we're not paying the players, we can play 100 and that will be fine. And that's the issue. These sides are so incompetent. They don't realize the bigger picture here. To grow the game, you need to play the game. You need to market your stars. Go to MLB.com and look what happens when you try and look up a player. They don't exist. They're all silhouettes now. Stupid. So I think we're going to be waiting for a long time now for Major League Baseball to once again be played. But as far as what we have seen in Major League Baseball in the offseason so far, we've seen a lot of teams that weren't any good spend a lot of money. And I want to emphasize that. We've seen a lot of crappy teams or teams that were out of the playoffs a year ago spend a lot of money. Let's look at the Texas Rangers. They stink. You want to know why they shelled out $500 million to Marcus Semien and Corey Seager combined? Because they stink, and they've been bad for years. You want to know why the Mets shelled out all this money to Max Scherzer and Starling Marte and the other players they brought in? Because they stunk last year. Find me the team that was really good that actually has gone out there and spent a lot of money so far. The Mariners brought in Robbie Ray. Okay. They missed the playoffs, though. The Blue Jays signed Kevin Gausman. Yeah, to replace Robbie Ray. They missed the playoffs. Find me the team, once again, that's actually spent a lot of money that is a championship caliber team or was a championship caliber team this past offseason. It's tough to do. You want to know why? Because the teams that spent money all stink or missed the playoffs. So I say this to bring up the New York Yankees, because Yankee fans in New York are going absolutely ballistic that their team has not done anything to improve their roster. And let me be the first to say, if the Yankees bring back the same team they just had this past year, they're probably the fourth best team in their own division right now. At least that's what they were this past year, basically. The Yankees need to significantly improve their team. Make no mistake about it. But the Yankee fan that is acting as if the Yankees are asleep at the wheel, that they didn't know that these moves were happening around them. What moves were made that you're saying, man, the Yankees really missed out? If they want Carlos Correa, he's still out there. If they want Trevor Story, he's still out there. If they want Clayton Kershaw, he's still out there. See, the Yankees certainly need to improve their team. Their offense was 19th in runs scored last year. Other than Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, basically everyone underperformed. So they certainly need to improve their ball club. I'm not going to sit here and defend the Yankees, believe me. But the idea that the Yankees need to be destroyed and ripped, that they're asleep at the wheel. I mean, let's relax. If the Yankees bring back the same exact team going into spring training, whenever that is, then yeah, they deserve to be lambasted, especially when Hal Steinbrenner comes out and says they need to drastically improve their team, and Brian Cashman says they need to improve the team as well. Called them unwatchable at times last year. If you're going to bring back Aaron Boone, well, you got to get him better players, right? So I understand why Yankee fans are frustrated, but the idea that the Yankees are going to do nothing this entire offseason, we're talking about the Yankees, all right? They're going to do something. I think what the Yankees are going to do is they're going to make significant trades. They don't see the value in giving Corey Seager, who won't be able to play the shortstop position 3 years from now, $325 million. The best shortstop on the market is Carlos Correa. Take this from someone that does afternoon radio in Houston. Carlos Correa is the best shortstop on the free agent market. He's still out there. Trevor Story, shorter term deal than Corey Seager. He's still out there. The Yankees are not going to overpay on Marcus Semien. You want to give a 31-year-old 7 years? You know the last player that received a contract in greater length at age 31, longer than 7+ years? That was Robinson Cano. Yankee fans wanted him back. How'd that work out? It was the right move. It was the right move. So I'm not going to sit here and defend the Yankees entirely. They need to improve their team. But my take is basically, let's relax with the Yankees are asleep at the wheel as everyone around them gets better. Who got better? The Texas Rangers? The New York Mets? Now, the Yankee fans frustrated because they see the Mets spending like George Steinbrenner used to, and they want that to be them. It still might be. It just might be in the form of trades. I think the Yankees are going to end up with either Matt Olson or Matt Chapman at first and third from the A's. I think Olson makes a ton of sense. I also could see the Yankees signing Trevor Story just to keep shortstop open. Plus, Story can play multiple positions. He's really athletic. I also don't rule out them bringing back Anthony Rizzo, who the Yankee fan seems to love. Freddie Freeman is still out there. Until I see him on a different team, I think he's back to the Braves, but there's still plenty of good players that are out there. Like the panic in New York from the Yankee fan is ridiculous. I'm not saying you shouldn't be frustrated. You should be frustrated with the 2021 season. It was an abomination that team only won 92 games. But give me a break with everyone's getting better. What have the Red Sox done this offseason? Nothing. What have the Dodgers done this offseason? They brought in Andrew Heaney. Yankee fans, you want Andrew Heaney back? I don't think so. So please. Even the Houston Astros, they signed Justin Verlander. Now that's in limbo. They haven't brought back Carlos Correa yet. They need a shortstop too. So I'm not going to defend the Yankees offseason. I'm just going to tell you to wait to criticize. They need to improve the team. But we're not in a position at this point where I can sit here and tell you the Yankees have missed out on a bunch of guys. They haven't. I've been told by a bunch of baseball people the Yankees are going to use the trade market. Trades take longer than free agency. Now, the issue is, I don't know when baseball's being played again. So this could take a long time. I'm not expecting a full 162 as I outlined at the beginning of this segment. I'm just not. I just don't think MLB's owners and players are capable of agreeing on something. So it's going to be ugly. But the reality is baseball, I think at some point in our lifetime will be played again. And when it does, whenever that happens, I think Brian Cashman knows he's got to improve his roster because his team is not good enough right now. Surprisingly, the Yankees bullpen is very good, and their starting pitching is better than people realize, especially if Luis Severino's healthy next year. You know, a rotation of Cole, Severino, Jordan Montgomery, Nestor Cortez, Domingo Germán. Like that's 5 guys I named that are all pretty good. Obviously, Cole is extraordinary. The key is to improve the lineup and look at the options that are still out there via trade or in free agency. They're not going to do nothing. But the Yankees aren't just going to shell out a bunch of cash for the sake of shelling out a bunch of cash. The Yankees have plenty of prospects to deal, and they have money to spend. You think the Dodgers are going to do nothing? They let Corey Seager walk? You think they just let Max Scherzer walk and they have no plan to replace these guys? We all got to be patient if you root for a big market team. A big market team that actually made the playoffs, I should clarify. Because the Texas Rangers are a big market team. They play in Dallas. The New York Mets are certainly a big market team. They play in, New York. Why did those teams spend money? Because they stunk. They needed to. All got to be a little more patient with what this offseason has been. Because I think when push comes to shove, the Yankees will make moves, they will be aggressive, and they will have a vastly different team than the team they brought to Tampa for spring training in 2021. Agree or disagree? 800-224-2004 is the number if you want to weigh in. Coming up, let's talk about the state of the NFL quarterback position. There's going to be multiple big-name quarterbacks that are available, I believe, in this offseason. And, I have the perfect fit for someone that might want out of his current situation. We'll talk about that next. Jake Asman hanging out with you here on a Saturday. You're listening to Sports Map Radio.
Just saying.